Let's talk about the process, right? So these are our Ruger American bolt-action rifles, okay? What I love about these is we have a detachable box magazine, holds 10 rounds. And so who remembers the 4 basic safety rules that we covered if I'm handling a gun? 4 basic rules if I'm handling a gun. Nobody? Okay, I'll help you out. So number 1, we're going to treat every gun like it's loaded. Every gun is always loaded. For today, these guns are going to be loaded, okay? Number 2, we're going to keep our muzzle pointed in a safe direction. For today, it's either up to the sky or downrange. Those are the only 2 safe places, okay? Number 3, fingers straighten off the trigger. Your sights are on the target, and I give you that command to fire. Number 4, make sure my target, my backstop, and what is beyond. So target's down there, backstop's all the way down. You will see the rounds impact on the dirt embankment down there. They go all the way down there, no big deal. So when the red lights are on like they are right now, is we got to have a chamber flag in the gun because it means the range is cold. And so when that's the only time we can load our magazines, that's the only time we could go down range to paste our targets is when these red lights are on, okay? So to get this gun ready to shoot, okay, what we're gonna do is everybody right-handed? Perfect, makes it so much easier because these are right-handed rifles, okay? So a couple function of the rifle. So I have a chamber flag in there. The chamber flag, what this does is it prevents a round from getting loaded in the chamber. It's also a visual inspection for me and others that this gun is clear, but also it checks this part of my chamber for any kind of obstruction, right? So rimfire, sometimes if I have an underpower round, I could have what's called a squiblow. There could be a round that gets lodged somewhere in this area. This kind of checks for any kind of obstructions, because if there's an obstruction, it could cause the gun to explode, right? And obviously, rimfire is a low pressure round, so it's not going to totally go like some guns with the action would actually explode. Rimfire is not going to happen typically, okay? So when we're talking about getting the gun ready to fire, what we'll do is we'll pull out this chamber flag. I'll give you a command to get the rifle into the firing position. So typically what you're going to do is you're going to kind of bring the rifle close to you just like this. This is going to go against my shoulder. My cheek is going to go down here. And then I'm going to line my front sight with the rear sight on the bullseye of my target. Okay, that's what's called my sight picture. My sight alignment is when I align those two. So the way this works is, so I get this gun close to me like this. My next command is going to be, you see these are dummy rounds, Dad. They're not real. Is I'm gonna say load and make ready. So when I say load and make ready, we're going to seat that magazine just like that. And then what we'll do is we'll close the bolt and then we'll make sure the gun is on safe. Here's my safety right here, okay? If I push forward, you'll see red. That means the gun can fire. Remember that last night it was red for dead? That's what I'm talking about. So when this gun is on fire, this gun can fire. So it should be on safe until I give you that command to fire, okay? And so what it looks like is I'm going to say, so now we have a loaded gun, okay? And so we want our feet flat on the ground. We can use the table kind of as a rest. We can also adjust these front legs of the bipod if we need to bring it up, because what we're trying to do is shoot straight through those targets, okay? You guys are pretty good size, so we might have to bring up the front end of the gun. And so let's talk about how I shoulder the gun, okay? So how I shoulder the gun is, you see my finger is straight and off of the trigger, right? That's really the most important thing I'm gonna be looking for today, okay? So I bring this gun into my shoulder, my cheek goes here, fingers off the trigger, my cheek goes here, and I look down the front sight, align it with the rear. And so when I give you a command, I'm gonna say shooters ready, stand by, and then when I say fire, that's when you're gonna line the front sight with the rear. You're gonna take the gun off as safe, and then you will press the trigger, the gun will go bang, okay? When the gun goes bang, finger comes off the trigger, and then you wait for that next command. That next command is going to be cycle back on safe. Okay, so what we do is we lift up, we cycle it to the rear, which kicks out my round, and then what I would do is close the bolt and then make sure the gun's back on safe, just like that. And then we repeat the process 100 times, hopefully. Does that sound good? Any questions? Feel good about it? So if I ever have to unload my gun, like if I have a round in my chamber and I say, hey, something happens, we're going to clear our rifles. What we're going to do, okay, to clear our rifles is we have a magazine release right here. You see this little tab? Push forward, the magazine drops out just like that. And then what I would do is lift up on my bolt handle and eject that round just like that, okay? Clear as mud?
Yeah, when you're lining it up on your shoulder, can you describe, like, is it the outer shoulder? Is it where the shoulder meets the body? Like
That's a great question. So who wears a backpack? So a backpack, so you know where your backpack strap goes? It goes right on the meat of your shoulder, right? The reason I say that, it's going to be a little bit more comfortable, especially if you're shooting a larger caliber gun that has recoil. These don't have recoil. That's a great question though. If I'm shooting a heavier caliber rifle, there's going to be recoil. If I have that on the bone, it's going to be not as comfortable, and it's actually going to hurt. You know, so the point is, if I use the inner part of my shoulder, it's a little bit more comfort. Helps me manage the recoil better. So great question. But I typically for young kids, like younger than you guys, because they always can relate to the backpack strap.
Sure.
And that's typically where we want it. And what it looks like is like this, you know. So I'm kind of like this. Obviously, I don't have this gun set up for me because in reality it should be kind of more like this for me.
Sure.
And that's a little, and you'll see my elbows are on the table just like this. You know, so I have lots of stabilization of this rifle because the more stable I am, the better I'm going to perform on my target. One thing to think about as well is that trigger press, right? So I'm not going to jerk that trigger. I'm not going to slap that trigger. I'm just going to press it. And what it looks like is I'm clear, and so I'll show you what it looks like. Take it off safe, and you see how my fingers goes onto the trigger, and it just goes like this. I'm not, because any kind of movement here from my elbows, my feet, my body, my breathing to my trigger press is going to equate to a bigger target downrange. And it's going to get bigger if we go out to 100 yards. So what seemed like this at 10 yards, it'll grow as the further we go out. So just something to think about. So, and we'll get there today. So I'm gonna clear this gun, put the chamber flag back in. That was a great question though. Have you ever shot before?
Once when I was 21. I grew up in Alaska, and my friend from Oklahoma, he was disturbed that I grew up in Alaska and never shot a gun, so he made me shoot his gun, but I've never done it again.
Is anybody afraid of guns? Good.
Well, I'm afraid of being shot.
Me too. I think consensus says none of us want to get shot today. So, thank